So if you do want to pop yourself off screen, that's okay. But we're recording it because there are a couple of people who are taking the wonderful well-being very aptly in terms of topic time today, having some annual leave instead of attending our session looking at well-being. So we're going to share the recording afterwards. So thank you so much for everyone that's joining us today. For those of us that haven't had the chance to meet properly yet, I'm Fee Rodden. My pronouns are she, her, and my job is Head of Talent and Leadership for the exec pipeline for the Southeast. So basically, it's my job to spot, develop, and support people into the top jobs across the Southeast. And I've worked in this field, in talent and leadership for, I don't know, the last 15, 20 years. And I've spent a lot of time supporting aspiring execs, aspiring chief execs. And one of the biggest factors that I have found is while we're focusing on getting you ready for these top jobs, a lot of the time what we're looking for in terms of measuring whether we're effective is bums on seats. And actually what we found over the last few years is the impact of a lot of the work that we do is really focused around well-being. And that area, if you're working in healthcare, is notoriously difficult to measure. So I've been asking the question of how do we identify this, what has been deemed a bit of a side benefit, and recognize that it's actually central to our work. And as I keep saying in a lot of our emails to you, for me and why I do this job, it's not about getting bums on seats into the jobs. It's about positioning you to thrive in those jobs, not just get them, but to be successful in them, to enjoy it and have a healthy work-life balance. And one of the key things that really has been coming up, I would say, since COVID in particular, is with the current execs, and this has been working with some of the most successful execs who are looking at stepping into chief exec roles. Health and well-being is a major factor. And it's also one of the key reasons that we look at a national level for gaps in our most senior leader pipelines, when we will have, one-to-one intimate career conversations and questioning whether you can take on this role and what that means for your work-life balance, for your health, for disabilities, for family commitments, and all sorts of other elements of that. So getting you ready doesn't just mean improving your skills or clarifying the job that you want, why you want it, refining your pitch, or helping give you a bit more of that motivation. It's really unpicking how do you look after yourselves in this world, where you are now, as well as this next step. And I think about it that the NHS and what we are here to do, and particularly at the moment as an incredibly tough place to be in a tough time, we're here to focus on well-being of our whole population. And yet for many leaders, your own well-being often falls to the bottom of the list. So it was really important to me that this is the first time that we come together to look at this. And I brought the wonderful Cara here, and I'm thrilled to have her with us. She is the founder of a consultancy called Softer Success, who have been working with leading universities and, have been working in this space for over 20 years with companies like Google and the Red Cross, who have a really good idea of how we do well-being. And I do encourage you to look up some of Cara's TED Talks and podcasts and books after the session. But she's developed the assessment tool that thank you very much to everyone that you have completed, which helps us to look at this now. We'll look at it again after a short period. I think we're hoping to come together in the early December, but I haven't got our business manager on the call today, so I don't want to be absolutely clear on the date, and these will come through over probably the next few weeks, to look at what difference are we making over this initial period. But she's also going to talk through some really entertaining and fun examples, because I think the thing with some of this stuff is it doesn't need to be a chore. So without further ado, thank you all for joining. Cara, I'm going to hand over to you and put myself on mute.
Thank you so much, Fiona. And hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm so grateful to be here today. And thank you for that great intro. I'm here today to talk to you about leading well and using science and neuroscience to prevent leader burnout. So everything that has to do with spotting it, preventing it, looking at the results from the assessment. It was an anonymous assessment, but we've got some overall results, and really doing that where you're also being able to help not only yourself, but your teams and those around you. Fiona's already touched on it. I'll do super quick. I work with different universities such as Harvard, Sheffield, King's College London, really gone into the depths of, cognition, burnout, and what causes burnout, how we can thrive in our working lives and how we can thrive generally. And I also wrote a book called Softer Success, which is really about redefining our success for ourselves, which is very, looking at ways to prevent burnout as well. But before we get into anything, I know it's lunchtime. Some of you will be eating, but we're going to do a very quick energizer. So what I'm going to ask you to do is actually get comfortable where you are. And if you can see me now, what I'm going to ask you to do is just take a deep breath in and out. And the next time you do that, I'm just going to ask you to hunch up your shoulders really high. So take a deep breath in, hunch up the shoulders, and then drop them. Let's do that one more time. And as you drop them next time, I want you to imagine that anything that's bothering you, you're just letting it go. So take a deep breath in, hunch up the shoulders, and drop them. Amazing. And so now what I'm going to ask you to do is actually just rub your hands together like this. Just going to come back into the body. Take another deep breath in. And this is just a bit of fun because I like to start with an energizer, and we're actually just going to send that warmth to each other across the screen, right? So we're all just coming together for the first time, and it's getting together as a group and learning, but just a little bit of warmth together as it's getting colder in October. So what I'll be talking to you about today is sharing some science, sharing some research, but some really practical tips that are going to help you through these next months, no matter what your results were in the assessment. They're highly practical, they're easily applicable, they won't take you too much time or effort to get them in and actually really learn on how we work on sort of rewiring our neural pathways in our brain. But to give a little bit of context, and we have had quite a crazy last 5 years, starting with COVID, and there is a lot of research and actually talking about what we're in the middle is called something called change fatigue. There is so much change happening and has happened over the last 5 years, specifically within healthcare, that we're actually in something that they call adjustment disorder. So the change, the brain is actually going, how am I taking all this on? There's AI, there was COVID, there was back to, getting things back in order after COVID. There's a lot of, different economical and global uncertainty. So it's really important to go take a moment to actually go, yeah, our minds and our bodies are going, what the hell is going on? And the great thing is and I will talk about that a bit later, and how our brains can adapt to change, but by making sure that we've got the right mindset around it and making sure that we're in that place as a leader. A quick tip that can already help you is something that was discovered by the University California, Irvine and University College London, is that when we started out with our kind of needing to be at home, or actually also adjusting to the whole situation of COVID and all the things over the last few years, our hippocampus, so the seashell-shaped side of the brain, goes into survival mode when we leave our home. And so one quick fun tip that can actually help you with your resilience and with your well-being and help with your brain to sort of rewire things is when you leave your home the next time, take a slightly different route. So I would always leave my house and I'd turn to the left and I'd go to the left and sometimes I'd, walk down a path to get to another road. And what I do is actually challenge the brain and go, okay, we're crossing the road now and we're taking a slightly different route so that I'm not on autopilot. And with that, what you're doing is going, oh, okay, that may take me out of potential negative mindsets that I get in or worrying about something. The brain has to pay attention. So that is a quick tip for you guys. Think about it. Maybe when later today, when you leave your house, or if you're at work, you can leave the office in a slightly different way. Just um, take a slightly different path and see what happens. Okay, so going back into a little bit more research, I've been researching burnout for many years, and I also went through burnout, which is why I found it so interesting because it happened to me about 10, 12 years ago. And at the time, there was no definition on it. So the World Health Organization defined burnout in 2019 as chronic work-related stress that hasn't been properly managed. But we've gone on to do research since with Sheffield University, King Imperial College London, and what actually is found that burnout is the symptoms are things such as exhaustion, disengagement, and reduced productivity. But what we're seeing now in 2025 is that there are different things that are coming in for burnout. So we're seeing loss of cognition. We're seeing moral stressors. So a moral stressor can happen when we witness or even fail to prevent or see something that goes against our own values and beliefs. And not only in our data and our assessment, but in all our work, we're seeing this increasing, and particularly within healthcare. So something called moral stress, moral injury is on the rise. And it's really important to be aware of that and know that if that is something that we've experienced, that there are ways to also manage it and ways to not sit with it, because that's when it can contribute to a burnout. So important is to regularly measure, to take small steps and actions to, change things within your team and openly talk about all of this. It's really, really important. So to you guys, hopefully most of you guys took a walk through the forest. So the Softer Success Wellbeing Assessment, which we created together with Sheffield, King's College and Leuven University in Belgium, to really do a very quick 90-second assessment that can show you among 6 pillars on really where you're at and if there is a burnout risk, but also to go, okay, where am I on other risk? Am I just actually less productive at the moment? Is there any disengagement? Where am I in terms of my well-being? And so within this group, there were 59 people that took the test. And actually, what's looking good within this group is that there is an 81% low burnout risk. There is some disengagement. So again, remember that this was a completely anonymized test. We only kind of get the team results. And productivity is at a medium. I would say that's probably because a lot of the changes that you're going through, as well as there is some moral stressor too. So we're going to work on all of these today. I'm going to share some solutions on how to around productivity, around how to embrace and how to deal with any moral stressors, and in general, just making sure that you're engaged. And of course, when there is big change, the brain actually does. This is an interesting scientific fact. When an organization is going through change, or when you are going through change, the brain does a funny thing where it goes, okay, that's so much that's happening. I just need to disengage a little bit. And that doesn't mean you fully disengage, but it actually goes in that space to protect you. So a little bit of disengagement is not as a bad thing. It's just something to be aware of when it affects your productivity and when it affects your leadership. So those are the stats of this assessment. If you haven't taken it yet, please do look back into Fiona's email and have a look at it. We're going to go back and have a look at it again in a couple of months' time. So you guys will get the chance to do it and be able to see how things are changing and shifting. So let me take you through over to some sort of personalized solutions and now what's come up for you as a leader. And I've seen, thank you for putting it in the chat, so many amazing, different, diverse jobs and so many different people that have joined. So thank you. But please take on what is relevant for you for personal, and then we're going to look at ways that will also help you and your team navigate through any changes. So just go to the next slide. Again, what we see around burnout, and we're not just talking about that today, we're talking about overall how can you thrive, is it's usually around these 6 pillars which we measured in our assessment. So the productivity goes down a bit, there is some disengagement, there may be some moral stressors, and your cognition may be slightly affected, as well as feeling more tired. Thankfully, in this group, there's a low risk, so I'm not too concerned. I think we're all doing well, but it's about being in this space of prevention. So knowing what can happen, spotting signs, keeping up, doing another assessment and making sure that we're taking stock on things such as disengagement and, cognition and alignment with values and personal values and purpose, as well as our team and the organization. So quick one for you to just pop in the chat, and I thought this was just a fun game. So the sailboat game really talks about, see if you see this here, I don't know if you're visual or if you're more from a talking, but this sailboat has a sail, which is helping it, move forward, but it also has an anchor. And so just think, first of all, now we're going to look at what are the anchors. So in terms of your leadership, what is holding you back at this point from leading effectively? And this is really just for you, and feel free to share it in the chat, but it's really for you to take stock of, okay, have I got an anchor? Have I got something that's holding me back at the moment? And then the next bit will be is what would help bring the wind in your sails. So what's going to really, pivot you forward. So I'll just stop the share for a minute while everybody takes a moment, and we'll have a quick look at those. So just if you haven't yet, please pop in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself as well, right? I'm not the only one talking, so if you want to just kind of share, if you just feel what you want to unmute yourself instead of on the chat, feel free to do that. It could just be one word, it could be just a statement, it could just be anything that you think at the moment, I think that's holding me back. So I can see the chat. Have we got everybody with me? So if you haven't yet, please pop in the chat just now. What's holding you back? What's that anchor? What's that thing that is keeping you from leading effectively? And what would kind of bring the wind in your sails? What we go, wow, if that happened, or if I had this, then I would just really be, even more thriving. So yeah. So, or feel free to unmute yourself if there's anybody wants to do that. So it's taking on too much detail. So yeah, change. So organizational restructures. Yes, we'll talk about that. Speed of asks. Relationships, uncertainty. Wind in sales, opportunity, beautiful. Differentiating alignments. And remember also to add what your anchor not only is what's holding you back, but what could help bring the wind in your sails. So yeah, so there's a couple here on conflicting priorities. So that's really good. We'll talk a bit about that when there are a lot of different stakeholders. Space for strategic oversight. Yep. Conflict. Empowerment to make change and permission to try. I love that one. That's amazing. Yes. Shared priorities and building relationships outside. Yeah. And morale and anchor are the quick demands. Yes. So yes, so sometimes we have so many different priorities and conflicts at the same time and demands, and it's about how do we navigate that. misaligned targets. Yeah, thanks everybody. So I'm seeing here from reading this is a lot about boundaries, different priorities, different stakeholders, uncertainty, not only in our, our global landscape, but within the organization, hidden agendas. Yeah. Well, thank you. So I'm going to go back to the share now. If you haven't, please continue to keep sharing in there and we'll come back to it. And keep an eye on it. So what I want to share, and this is actually very interesting, is something we often think is going into our own sort of well-being and our own way to thrive, is that what is often not known is that, and I've done a lot of research around sleep and around rest, but sleep is actually not the only thing we need when we need to be rested. So physical rest is sleep, but we have 7 types of rest that every person needs. We need mental rest away from our mental, like our focus and workload. We need to take time away from that. Sensory rest, which is also away from our screens and away from anything that may. We need creative rest, and creative rest is that moment of what I call awe, right? So it's when we go out into nature, it's when we see something that we're like, wow, and that sparks some inspiration in us. We need emotional rest, so time away from the people that drain us. So you need to be aware of the people that are draining us, but at the same time, we also need social rest. So we need to be around people that uplift us too. So taking time to go, okay, these are the people that I want to hang out more with because I always feel really good when I'm around them, and being very aware and setting our boundaries with the people that we know that drain us and drain our energy. And now sometimes that's not always possible if we're working within a team and there may be certain people that are doing that, but setting your boundaries and just going actually, in my one-on-one with this particular person or during a team meeting with this person, I will state my boundaries and, either make sure that the meeting is in a slightly different location, or we're going out for coffee instead, or changing the location a bit. So being aware of that. And then we also need spiritual rest, and that's very different for all of us. For some it's meditation, for others it's our spiritual religious practice, for others it's being out in nature. It's very different, but it's extremely important to have those moments of stillness. It really is important. As the noise gets louder and louder in our work and in the world, it's very important to actually just come back to the self, come back and just be, ground yourself. And we're going to do some quick exercises on that throughout the presentation. So talking to you about neuroplasticity, and really when we're leading from a place of grounded presence and not too much in the mind. But I love how the recent research on our brains and on our neuroscience and with neuroscience has come out in the last few years. Our brains are, and you guys know this probably, it's like loaf of bread. Like it's so malleable, they can be rewired. And this is incredible research that we didn't realize so many years ago. And this has make sure that we can, it takes about 21 to 30 days to rewire our neural pathways. So that's why you often see when you go to a gym or, people are starting a diet, they'll say, do it for 3 weeks, do it for a month, because that's the behavioral change, and a neural pathway rewire takes that amount of time. But all of the things that have been mentioned just now, and things that have come out of the assessment, so conflict, uncertainty, also we've spoken a bit about setting boundaries, but dealing with different stakeholders. It is actually possible to shift our mindset around this too. Doesn't mean that the situation is going away, but you can really take a different approach to it. So, and I've done this myself, and it can be as simple. We're going to do an experiment with it in a minute, so it's going to be fun. But we can actually rewire our neural pathways, but the brain needs a challenge. So this is how we do it. So first of all, the brain needs a challenge, and I'm gonna give you a funny demonstration about why it does need a challenge and why we need to be consistent. And I'm going to you're going to put my glasses on upside down. And the reason I'm doing this, and it looks a little bit weird, and if anybody's there or wants to join me, you can. And tell me how you're feeling when you look through your glasses like this. Not only do I feel a bit silly doing it, but I can't see properly. And this comes back to something called the Innsbruck goggle experiment. In 2017, they did some research and they put goggles on participants that turned everything upside down. Before they put these goggles on, they asked them to do a specific drawing. Then they put the goggles on. And for the first couple of days, they felt a bit like I am at the moment. So I'll take these off now because I'm feeling a little bit dizzy. But it was just for you to see. And at day 3, things started to change. So people were feeling dizzy, they were feeling disoriented. But by day 5, the brain had rewired itself. And the people were able to do the same drawing, exactly the same drawing with everything upside down. But on day 6, they took the goggles off. And on that, the whole neural pathway rewired itself back again because there hadn't been enough time. They hadn't had the goggles on for more than 21 to 30 days, and they hadn't made small enough changes. So the brain rewired itself back again. So what I want to say with this is the challenge I'm going to give to you today is we need to actually think of something small to challenge our brain. And we need to set an intention going in 1 month's time. I'm going to be, thinking differently about this. We need to pay attention to it and it needs to be consistent. And so what I'm going to ask you to do today is, why did I ask you about the sailboat? Is actually to think of one word that pops up a lot for you, in your conversation. Could it be busy? Could it be the word stress? Could it be the word burnout? Could it be something that comes up a lot that actually it doesn't make you feel so good, or you're not even aware that you're doing it? And instead of that one word, you're going to adopt another word. So I've done this experiment on myself as well. So I changed from the word busy to the word focus. And I changed from the word stress to the word joy. And every day I would have it written down somewhere in the moments that I was crossing the road, taking my slightly different route, and my brain would go, ooh, busy, or I need to do this. I would actually just bring back in the words that I chose. So, little challenge for you. I'm going to ask you to pop on the chat your word that you want to be using over the next month, every single day. And it's often to do with how we feel. So, how do you want to feel? Do you want to feel peaceful? Do you want to feel calm? Do you want to be feeling joyful? Do you want to be focused? What is the one word for you? So pop it in the chat and I'll come to it in a minute. Or feel free to just, unmute yourself and try that for 21 days, 3 weeks, and see how you get on, because it honestly is scientific proven that it works, but you need to at least use it once a day. So if you read it somewhere in the morning, pop a little note on your laptop, put it on your mirror, make sure that you keep coming back to it. And this can be done with so many things, right? Oh, I'm dealing with so many different stakeholders and conflicting priorities. Maybe take out the word conflict. So maybe it can actually be, it could become a sentence, right? So I'm easily managing different priorities and I'm easily navigating different priorities, that kind of thing. Doesn't mean to say that the stakeholders and these things will not be there, that uncertainty is not there, that change not there. It's all there, but it's just about rewiring it and setting it out in a different way. And that comes to another method that we've found a lot and that I'm also trained in, is something called the ACT method, the accept commit method. And that goes into when you sort of step into an observer role. So I notice that I am feeling stressed, or I notice that I am less focused or less productive, or I notice that I'm feeling a bit burnt out. Then you actually say, but I'm taking steps to manage it. Because we don't like to feel those negative emotions. We don't like to feel anxious. We don't like to feel fear, and so the mind and the body actually pushes it away, or sometimes the body even stores it. And so it's very important to understand that we can rewire that. And by stepping into the observer role, it really can help. really help us thrive. Other ways that can help us with our productivity, and that's one thing that I do want to share, because this group, particularly in this, there was 20% disengagement, but the productivity was a little bit on the low side in terms of being at our best. And to help that, I think it's to help us thrive, it's super important to understand how our bodies and our minds work. And some of this you may already know. But as we've been listening for a while, if you're not eating your lunch, I'm actually going to ask you to, if you can, stand up, because we're just going to do a little exercise to have some fun and to just bring us back into our bodies. So if you can, I'm going to ask you to stand up. I'm going to stand up too. And make sure there's not anybody next to you and you've got a little bit of space next to you. And so I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath in and out. You can do it sitting down as well, by the way. If you can't stand up, stay sitting. I'm going to ask you to make a fist out of your hands. That's why I said make sure there's nobody around. We're not going to punch each other. And what I'm going to ask you to do is take a deep breath in, bend over the fist like this. And as you breathe out, I want you to stretch your arms wide open. Okay, this is called spinal cord breathing. It's opening up here, just, so we can breathe properly. So again, fist out of our hands, deep breath in and out. And let's do it one more time. So fist out of our hands, deep breath in and out. Okay, now let's give it all a little shake out. Give your hands a little shake out. Whatever you can give a shake out, shake out. If you're able to move your legs, or if you're able to move your arms, and if you're not able to, then just shake whatever you can. What we're doing is we're just invigorating the body. So how does that feel? See if you thumbs up, amazing. So when you're ready, you can sit back down again. So by just doing this, we have opened up our chest to be able to breathe deeper, and we have just regulated our nervous system just by that, very quick exercise. And it helps us break into our ultradian rhythm, which I'm going to talk about. So important to get out of our head, back into our body throughout the day. But what are ultradian rhythms? So there was there's a sleep researcher called Dr. Nathan Kleitman, who found that at night we have 90-minute sleep cycles, and during the day we have the same 90-minute sleeps or 90-minute cycles, but they are called ultradian rhythms. So we have 90 minutes that we actually be able to be really productive and do an awful lot, and then the body goes into a kind of, oh, okay. And that's that moment when we're like, oh, I need another cup of coffee, or I need, a snack, or what often happens is I'm going to power through on adrenaline. But then what happens is the body and the mind start to get a little bit tired. And that's what happens with our productivity and even our engagement. We then kind of get into protecting, I need to disengage because this is a lot. So make sure, and sometimes I know it's difficult, you have back-to-back meetings, but make sure that you are aware that your body after 90 and your mind after 90 minutes needs just 1 minute of rest. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes. We've already seen in our research that just 60 seconds, what we did just now, is more than enough to actually regulate our nervous system, get back into our peak performance. And so I wanted to share that with you. And again, the whole method is something I developed when I was researching burnout, because I found that if people go for too long, if we're hungry, and that's why I'll leave time for Q&A, and even we may even finish a bit earlier if you guys haven't had lunch yet. If we're angry, do we need to talk to somebody? Are we feeling lonely or tired? We're never going to be in our best leadership skills if we're going through that. It's important to make sure that we stay sustainably productive. So one thing that I found that works really well is not only the micro wellness and what I just kind of showed you, the 60 seconds, but focusing on deep work. So one thing at a time. And we do get distracted. It's just what happens because we have, our phones, we have different tabs open at the same time. We've got different people calling on us. But when you do want to take some time to really focus on something, turn off all those tabs and just have that one thing there and focus on it for, 20 minutes, half an hour. You can even be 90 minutes, as you know, but sometimes I found that the shorter is better. Plan dedicated joy time. Work doesn't have to always be, stressful. Like, know that joy, sometimes people would say, well, it's spontaneous. But think of something that you can do in the middle of the day or even at the end of the day that you're like, I'm really looking forward to that. And, that's going to get me to, I'm going to be as productive as possible because then I'm going to do that at the end of the day, whatever that is for you, and make sure that you label it as that's my joy time and that's coming up. And also writing out a future script. So this is something that it's a bit of a vision technique, but it works really well. It's like writing a letter to yourself, going, maybe 6 months down the line, knowing that you've been placed in a job or you're in the job that you're happy with, you've navigated this period really well, you are thriving, so just write down how you'd really like to feel and then sign it with a date at the bottom. So this gets your mind again going, this is happening already, right? So again, it's a bit of rewiring our neural pathways. We've already talked about the kind of, stress 90 seconds. But while I'm doing this, I want you to actually, if you're able to, give your feet a little wiggle in your shoes, or if you're not wearing shoes, but just do that while you're speaking to me at the moment. And just maybe look away from the screen and spot 5 different things in the room. Again, it just really helps while to us to stay engaged and focused and thriving, that we're just okay. We've been focused on our screen. We're now just looking around. So I can see a lamp, I can see a mirror, a table, a plant, a chair. So just have a look. And making sure, especially when we have different stakeholders, this is so important for us to thrive, that we stay in charge of our own schedule. Have you ever had that moment when you're like, I kept all this time free in my calendar and I was going to work on this particular thing, but then a meeting got scheduled in and then my boss asked me that, and then I had to go home earlier to sort my dog, my cat, my kids out, or, other relatives. And so I couldn't do it and the whole day was lost. And sometimes we can't help these things that happen, but make sure that that time that you've scheduled that is for you or you needing to work, that just stays clear as much as possible, even if it's just 1 hour a week. And making sure that you also are aware of real recharges versus fake recharges. And I've had clients that come and talk to me about this so much, where they're like, well, I finished work and then I left work and I wanted to go to the gym, but then I started to look at my phone and then I went on to my emails and I then went back onto a project that I'm trying to do like for our home rebuild. And then I went back again. And by that time it was late and I decided to go home. And then I was disheartened and demotivated. So I got, instead of a healthy meal, I got a pizza. And and I was asking them, I said, is that a real recharge or a fake recharge when you went on your phone and you got caught into other things? It's a fake recharge. So it's actually, we think that we're, and I'm not saying, we have our things to do, but be aware of when we're pulled into our stuff that may not be helping us. So boundaries with technology is incredibly important. Making sure that you do, staying away if you're having struggles with sleep at night. I've done an awful lot of research on this as well. Our blue light does need to stay off. It's really important. Having some some rituals or things that help calm you at night, also really important. And allowing our melatonin to kick in. So, if we're eating just before we go to bed, it doesn't always kick in the way that we need it to. So being aware of those things. I've spoken to you again about our nervous system. So breath, incredibly important. I like to listen to brain entrainment music. So this is really, really helpful. It's called binaural beats. There's a really great app called Brain FM. It's free. You can download it. So while you're doing your work, while you're focusing, while you're doing your rewiring of the brain, this can also really help. And little movement, as we've just been doing. So going back into quickly, I'd like to finish with our leadership and our leadership qualities, because that's really what this is about, leading well. and not only taking care of ourselves, but being aware of how we lead and how we thrive and how we help the others around us thrive. From a perspective of looking at burnout and preventing burnout and our own well-being, but also knowing what kind of qualities are there. And we've done a bit of work on this, knowing that in traditional leadership qualities, we're seeing lots of things like confidence, strength, decisiveness, but knowing we also have positive opposite qualities. So self-care is incredibly important. We'll lead really well if we're caring for ourselves. And when we're looking at psychological safety, things such as vulnerability, flexibility, acceptance, patience, and not all of those are there. So being aware which positive opposite quality you may you may not have, and knowing that sometimes this actually really helps within our leadership skill, and being able to demonstrate this within your team, being aware, taking that time for our reflection. So yeah, have a look there and go find out for yourself and go, which of these ones would I like to develop more, or do I actually not have? And if it's simply self-care, then that's the one. But self-care is very much about what I've spoken to today. It's also knowing how our body works, knowing how we are able to prevent burnout, how we can rewire our neural pathways, taking steps to get enough rest. And so maybe sharing one thing of your own, because it's the first time this group has come together, so there's going to be more on this. And I know Fiona's got an amazing, schedule lined up over the next couple of months. But to build on this, and as we go forth over the next months, what are your own leadership sort of stress management strategies? What are they? And is there one thing that you could pop on the chat that you go, okay, this is something that I always do, and I've noticed that, I speak about it within my team, or I've noticed that it works really well for me. So maybe we'll just take a moment to stop the share, and I'm going to, so I see a few messages coming up. Oh, I see, amazing. Active listening, yes, amazing. So regular exercise. So yeah, just pop there the things that you find that really, really helpful for you. And that will be also helpful for the group to see sometimes, what we do. We may need to bring something else in for us, right? We may need to slightly change our strategy. And so, yes, I love this laughter. I don't know if you know this, actually, I'm actually a laughter yoga practitioner. I learned this a while back. It's so good. So I start my day with 10 minutes of laughter. And in the beginning, it can feel really, some people, when I first did the course, people were like, this feels funny because you're laughing and you may not already start to laugh. But when others are laughing with you, it's amazing. So breaks outside, amazing. Keeping boundaries, meditation, watching your kids play sport or exercise, music. So movement is so incredibly important, isn't it? Yeah. Being a beginner at things, so crafts, helping rebalance, nature walking. So I see amazing things. You guys are already got a lot of fantastic stress management things that, taking time to be in the kids' room 20 minutes. So just that time for stillness as well. Yeah, look at that. I mean, you already got incredible management techniques. So speak about that, share that with your teams, share it with each other, because sometimes sometimes at certain times we need different modalities so we can learn. So keep popping that in there. I'll go back to it at the end, and we're coming towards the end now and leaving time for a few questions. So again, well-being is a business goal for leaders, and this fits in with self-care. This was really based on some research that we did with King's College London, and that well-being becomes our business goal. And we're like, this is the first thing that I'm implementing. These, stress management technique, this is the thing that I cannot, it's a non-negotiable. Has to be part of my day. It has to be part of my week. It actually does increase our effectiveness. We are sustainably productive. We learn from each other, and there's a decreased risk of adverse effects from psychological health. So set it as your goal. and going back on, enhancing well-being for ourselves, right? Remember that a growth mindset is so important. So again, whatever's going on, asking yourself, what can I learn here? Like, what can I learn? What has happened here that I can learn from? And knowing, fostering a culture of recognition. Harvard did some fantastic research on the positivity of gratitude just by saying thank you to your colleague, to yourself. Actually thank you for getting yourself here to this, event or traveling, whatever. Like, and those around you actually enhances our human flourishing and helps us thrive. So implementing that in our day to day, and often it's more of a heartfelt thank you. So it's not always that thank you at the end of the email that we feel that, but it's actually going, do you know what? I'm just taking the time to send you this message or to say it in our meeting. That really helped. Thank you. Or thank you for dedicating the time to this, or thank you for helping me out, or thank you for just, being the person that you are. It's just wonderful to see, because then that other person or that other group of people just start to thrive, and that will have an effect on you too. So there's enough scientific research to prove that this is amazing. So growth mindset, growing, learning, keeping on learning. If we keep on staying curious, nothing is too much. The brain will go, yeah, okay, I can manage conflict. We won't even call it conflict, different priorities. I have different stakeholders. I am thriving in uncertainty. And I am just, taking each day by day. So a growth, learning, and a connection of gratitude. Very quickly, I won't go into more psychological safety, but just ways to end this, to create this within your team. And I've put here still hybrid teams, because some of you may have people in site, some of you may have people that you connect with, virtually. And remember that it's also about, being open and vulnerable and sharing your own active listening, really being able to listen without thinking, what do I need to answer, but to really being able to see, because people just love to be seen and heard, right? So for you, not only for yourself, but for those around you. So coming to the end, and I wanted to give us some time for Q&A. Here's my email in case any of you would like to have any other specific questions, or you can email Fiona and pass it through to me. I hope you've enjoyed today. Take from it, think about what one thing you're going to take from today, this session. Is it, that's interesting, I haven't done the walk through the forest yet. I'm going to do the assessment, see where I'm at. Is it, I'm going to take a slightly different route when I leave my house today to sort of help? Is it, I'm going to use this different word that I've chosen, and really know what's going to bring, the wind in my sails, and actually focus on that? Is it the different word that I'm going to do for 21 days? Am I going to focus at having more different types of rest? Do I need different types of rest at the moment? What is it that I need? Am I aware of, the kind of mindset challenges that's happening, and, what's going on in terms of, can I step into the observer role? Can I actually go, I notice this is happening, but I'm taking steps towards it? Are you focusing on breath? Are you able to get up and move and towards your ultradian rhythms during the day? There's a lot. So just pick one. And maybe also let us know that in the chat, and I will leave a little bit of time for any questions. And please feel free to unmute yourself. And if there are no questions, what I thought I may do is give us 5 minutes extra back, but also end with a little calming exercise, so you guys can go into the rest of the day feeling thriving.
Thank you so much, Cara. I was just going to say, you asked there if people wouldn't mind popping in the chat, what's the one thing that you're going to take away? And I thought it was really interesting, because I'd put down priorities, and I've got myself a list of about 6 things on the paper. And I thought your statement of just pick one was perfect. So just why don't you pop it in the chat, everyone, as well? And I think your offer of a quiet moment would be well received. But before we go into that, Cara, Can I ask, has anybody got any questions? So pop your hand up or just unmute yourself. Excellent, Carly, please go.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a really great session, and similarly to you, I've been through a process of burnout before, and I feel like I came out quite low risk on the assessment because I've started to sort of come out the other side and put red lines in the sand to sort of protect these things for myself where I can. So my question is really about how you sustain that, because it's very easy to sort of start off with those good intentions, but I can already feel that sometimes you're going to need to compromise on them, and then it's potentially a slippery slope back to where you've been before. So I guess it's how you sustain these things whilst trying to juggle all the pressures that come with the roles that we're in.
Also acknowledging that. So in this situation, I would say the ACT method works really well. As I notice that some stressors are beginning to creep back in again, or I'm feeling stressed, but I've got steps to manage it, and know what your steps are, know what your things are that really helped you and that have helped you over time, right? And keep doing them. So, whether that is I call them rituals, whether you have something in the morning that you do or in the middle of the day, come back to that, because that's your anchor, not holding you down, but it's your anchor to keep you grounded, and that knowing that won't happen. But because the brain is set up as it is, and because this has happened before, I think the accept commit method would be really helpful for you, and actually writing down that slogans. And I notice I'm getting stressed, I'm concerned that some of these things are seeping back in again. Oh, but actually I've got ABC to help me manage it. You've got, your toolkit, and, really, if you want to buy Fiona or myself, you want to have any more, I'm happy to share with any things that really, really help, and that we've seen really help, especially with people that have, had some burnout before, that are now on low risk, but want to stay in a place of prevention and really in a place of thriving. So, but I would suggest that and see how you go.
Thanks, Carly. That was a really insightful question. I think you made the comment, Cara, as well, about the neuroplasticity and this daily practice being one of the things. And having been in burnout myself more than once, like you said, Carly, it's easy for it to fall off the focus, really, once you feel like you're doing well. So I would say, with everyone that's popping in, and thank you so much for putting your commitment in the chat, the question might be, how can you remind yourself every day for 21 days at least to help keep us in that process of focusing on it? Liz, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. That it was so interesting to hear what you had to say, Cara. So thank you very much. It's really made me reflect on my own practice, and also what I might do for my teams. I suppose my question would be, I reflect on what my senior leadership team and what they do, and how can I try and embed some of that practice to them, because I think that's the bit that I think I'm able to do downwards, but I don't know how I can do that upwards. And I know certainly in our executive leadership teams, there's normally a check-in at the beginning, but it just doesn't feel very genuine. I just think it feels a bit, is everyone all right? And then actually nobody's really going to say how they feel. And I just wonder whether some of these ways of, almost, like standing up and doing a breathing exercise together might actually bring everyone together. I just wasn't sure if you had any advice on that.
Yeah, I mean, the physical piece is incredible in terms of regulating the nervous system, and to then ask the question, how's everybody doing? And maybe sometimes I've seen in teams it works really well if people rate it from 0 to 10. So they don't actually have to say how they're feeling, but they can give a kind of, lower down is maybe not great, but 8 out of 10 is amazing, right? And if they feel called, they can share it. But I would always just go, keep it really simple, just rubbing the hands together, taking a few seconds to just shake out the body, take simply a deep breath, right? Just going, okay, before we get started, we'll just take a deep breath before we plunge in. And, that is already gives you 30 seconds or 1 minute for people to just come back and get out of the mind, because it's the mind that is often the one that is, you're coming back into the body, and that's what you want to be doing with this leadership team. They need to get back in the body. I once worked with a really senior CEO, and they were so much in the mind, and we were talking, and at one point I just said, "Can you feel your feet?" And they went, "Sorry, what did you say?" And I said, "Can you feel your feet?" No, because they were here. And so again, that they were very grateful at that time, saying, "Thank you, you've actually literally brought me back down to earth, and I feel that everything's clearer now." So bringing some scientific evidence into this as well. If people take a deep breath, even if it's 1 or 2 or 3, what you're doing is bringing oxygen to the brain and to the body. And we know that. And I know it sounds really simple, but sometimes even music, right? To bring something in that you're going to go, "This is fun." Play some music before they all come into the room, have some windows open, just something that's slightly different, that people may not notice, but is actually going to help regulate the nervous system. So music's incredibly powerful. If you find some of the brain entrainment music, which I can always send, and you have that playing in a meeting room, or you just said, "I thought we would do something different. This is actually really good for our brain focus." See what happens, and be curious about it. Be curious, see, because you may get other people that will go, "Amazing. Let's, this is good. Let's do something like this next time. And let's allocate each time somebody to bring something in differently." Because you have so many people in the team that are often like, "Oh, I do this at home, but I always thought I don't want to bring it in." So maybe that's helpful. And I'm happy again via Fiona to share some more tips on that.
And we will come back to this. We're going to have another session in a couple of months, and I want you to hang on to what you are going to focus on. And maybe you're going to bring something back that we haven't talked about yet, that is going to be a new strategy for helping. So, Cara, in our last minute, could you just help us take a breath before we go on to our next thing?
Yeah. So if everybody has a moment, I'd just like you to close your eyes. If you can't close your eyes, just put your hands on your heart. Take a deep breath in and out. Drop your shoulders. Feel your feet on the ground. Take another deep breath in and out. Let go. You're fully present. Back in your body. Feeling your hands, feeling your feet. And just as a moment of being grateful to taking the time to just being here today and learning and growing and looking forward to whatever's coming, the weekend or beyond, that thing that's going to bring you joy. One more deep breath in and out. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. I'm on time. Thank you so much, everybody. You've been a fantastic group. I hope that you have some time now to take a few moments before you go to the next to just kind of take this in. And thank you, Fiona, for having me.
Thank you so much, Cara, for a wonderful session. And I look forward to seeing everyone very soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a fantastic weekend. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, it's just us.
It is. Thank you,
Thank
Cara.
you.
That was absolutely wonderful.